The Mauryan Empire, the largest empire India had ever seen in its total history. It stretched from Indus River to Kalinga in the south and from Saurashtra in the west to Brahmaputra in the east. The Mauryan kings ruled the great state from about 320 BC to about 185 BC. The empire had scaled considerable heights under the legendary kings Chandragupta Maurya, Bindusara and Ashoka the Great. During the eventful and glorious span of these kings, the Mauryan Empire had extended to vast limits and had attained unprecedented success in the field of art, architecture, etc. So grasp your hands and hold your breath. Let me take you to the wonderful empire of the Mauryan kingdom through this presentation.
There is a great deal of controversy about the origin of the Mauryan Empire. According to the Buddhist literature, the Mauryans were Kshatriyas. Archaeological evidence comes from the Ashoka pillar at Nandangarh, which contains an emblem of a peacock. The stupa at Sanchi also has several statues of peacocks. So this means that people living in the land of the peacocks are called Maurya. There even has been evidence that the Mauryans were Shudras. But according to Kautilya's Arthashastra, Chanakya had crowned Chandragupta king after he had defeated and destroyed the Nanda dynasty's last king Dhanananda. Being a Brahmin, Chanakya was a staunch follower of Varna ashram system and would never consent to make a Shudra a king. Thus, above evidence proves that the Mauryans were Kshatriyas.
Kautilya, better known as Chanakya, was the Prime Minister of Chandragupta Maurya. He was the best ever politician and economist India had ever seen. His two books, Arthashastra and Niti Shastra, laid the foundation of a strong Hindu empire. While Arthashastra discusses the monetary and fiscal policies, social welfare and war strategies, Niti Shastra is a treatise on the ideal way of life. During the glorious reign of Mauryan monarchs, India had a prosperous and stable empire with economic and military power whose political influence and trade extended across West and Central Asia and Europe. Mauryan India also enjoyed an era of social harmony, religious transformation and expansion of science and knowledge, all due to the great kings of the Mauryan Empire. All the kings had been very compassionate towards the subject, but still in the end there were ups and downs in their period of reign. The following segment will tell us briefly about the 9 kings of the Mauryan Empire. We will start with Chandragupta Maurya and end with Brihadrata Maurya. Chandragupta Maurya was the founder king of Mauryan Dynasty. Historians have opined that he had appeared in the political scenario of India during the invasion of Alexander and liberated India from the Macedonians. Chandragupta Maurya had extended the Mauryan kingdom through his enormous conquest to the Trans-Indus region, which was under Macedonian rule and also in major parts of India. Bindusara was the immediate successor of Chandragupta Maurya. He was the son of Chandragupta by a woman named Durdhara. Bindusara had inherited a vast kingdom from his father, which he had extended to the southern part as far as what is now known as Karnataka. He had bought 16 states under the Mauryan Empire and had thus conquered almost all the Indian peninsula. Bindusara was titled Amitragata because he had conquered the land between two seas. Ashoka was the greatest ruler of Mauryan dynasty. His empire constituted major parts of present India. He was a mighty conqueror, but still he shunned the desire for conquest after witnessing the huge massacre of Kalinga War and embraced Buddhism. His rock edicts were important sources about his reign and policies that he had adopted, and at the same time were rare architectural pieces. Dasharath succeeded his paternal grandfather Ashoka the Great as ruler of the Mauryan Empire. He was only about 20 years old when he had ascended the throne of the Mauryan Empire with the help of ministers. Dasharath is known to have dedicated 3 caves in the Nagarjuni hills to the Ajivikas. 3 inscriptions at the cave refer to him as Devavarmipiya Dasharatha. Samrat Samprati was an emperor of the Mauryan Empire who reigned from 224 BC to 215 BC. He was the son of Ashok's blind son, Kunal. He succeeded his cousin Dasharatha as emperor of the Mauryan Empire and ruled almost the entire present-day Indian subcontinent. According to the Jain tradition, he ruled for 53 years. Samprati was influenced by the teaching of a Jain monarch, Suhastin. He also sent Jain scholars abroad to spread Jainist teachings. After the rule of Samprati Maurya, the dynasty was further ruled by Saili Sukha Maurya from 215 BC to 202 BC. Devavarman Maurya from 202 to 195 BC and Satadhanva Maurya from 195 to 187 BC. The last ruler of Mauryan Empire was Brihadratha Maurya, who ruled from 187 to 180 BC. Till this time, the Mauryan Empire had centered around just Patliputra. He was killed by his Senapati or commander-in-chief Pushyamitra Sunga, who laid the foundation stone of the Sunga dynasty.
Art under the Maurya dynasty was a treasure house which comprises the remains of the royal palace and city of Patliputra, the stupas at Sanchi, Sarnath and Amravati, pillars of Ashoka, potteries, coins and paintings. The period from 4th century to 2nd century BC is an important period in the field of art and architecture. The remains of Patliputra demonstrate the extraordinary craftsmanship and durability of the cities built of fortifications. Patliputra, with towers and gateways, illuminates the vast extent and the enormous strength of construction of the great city of the Mauryan Empire. The ruins of the fabulous city of Patliputra near modern Patna is extremely important for an understanding of the whole character of Maurya civilization which Ashoka inherited and perpetuated. The ruins of the Nalanda University tell us about the quality of the teachings offered to the students there. Army under Mauryan Empire had a highly complex structure. The Mauryan Empire maintained a large standing army that was adequate to all its internal and external needs. The organization of the army was an elaborate affair. The standing army had 750,000 troops. The Mauryan army used a variety of formations. The Mauryan army had one of the largest and the strongest military power at that time. It consisted of around 1 million cavalrymen on foot, on horses and on elephants. It consisted of around 1,000 elephants. Elephants in those days could be compared to modern day tanks. The whole army had superior system of administration. It was divided into 4 units. First was the Pada or the men on foot. They consisted of the levy spearmen who carried and attacked with the spears in their hands. Behind them were the skirmishers who used to throw the spears as a long-range attack. The longbowmen were behind the skirmishers who used their bows and arrows. The strongest were chosen as the swordsmen and they were in the front. The second were the Turanga, that is, the horsemen. It consisted of the light and medium cavalry which carried with them spears and shields. The third were the Yudraths, which consisted of the men on chariots. The light chariots consisted of only 2 men with spears. The heavy chariots consisted of about 5 men with archers and swords. The third and the most important unit of the army were the Yuddhagaja or the elephants. They were fully armored and had a seat like on their top on which the men were armed. The short-ranged archers were placed on the top for precise shooting. All this and many other exciting features made the Mauryan army one of the most strongest in the world.